Hello there. In honor of it being St. George's Day, I thought I'd read to you a little poem I wrote. Reg, we didn't realize you had an artistic bent. Well, you don't know Jack, and that's a fact. He's a very nice man, and he told me I should pen some of my little ditties. So, here we go. St. George, by His Grace, Sir Reginald Backwash, 4th Duke of Gasport, etc. When George the Turk came riding through the town of Uffington, it's true, the last thing on his nightly mind was battling with demon kind. For but last week, 3 days, if that, he'd played his part in a mighty spat, knee-deep in guts, gore, mud and sludge, the memory of which he could scarcely budge. So now he turned his thoughts to rest, a holiday he felt was best, a day or two of simple pleasures, time away from military pressures. "I' faith, and lawks, methinks," quoth he, "'tis what I deserveth, yea, verily." Back then, it must be said, for it is true, they spoke very differently from me and you. But as through Uffington he tramped, and as his horse its bit it champed, he became aware that all about him were scruffy townfolk busy shouting, raising bloody murder to a man 'twas more than his poor ears could stand. Hailing down a wailing yeoman, he begged if they fled some railing foeman. "Nay, good master, God keep ye, sirrah," said he in a voice that quavered in terror. "Nay, no, man, would that were so, 'tis a beast from hell that is our foe." A beast from hell, the good knight thought. My plans for rest have gone for naught. I'm getting sick of this oldie-timey speech. It's laborious, and I've a point to reach. George learned from this poor trembling clown it was a dragon that plagued their town. For on the 3rd day of every month, the beast insisted on a girl for lunch, and not just any of the female gender. She must be virginal, blonde, and tender. Misogyny was rampant then, you see, especially in the realms of devilry. 25 of our town's daughters have been sent yonder to their slaughters. And as he spoke, he raised his hand, which caught George in his wedding gland. "Oh, gad zooks, ye plebeian elf! Why, for that blow I'd strike your loaf, were it not that you were distracted by menace. But let it by. Oh, my aching penis. As I was saying, goodly knight, 'tis on yon hill where you must fight." And now this presumption came as a shock to our hero George and his bruised cock. "Hang about, peasant, who, said I, would fight with any dragonfly?" I realise that's an insect, but in my defence, poetry is sometimes a little bit difficult. Sighing, George unfurled his standard, donned his helm, girded his lanyard. He set his steely gaze upon the hillock, and charged right over the clumsy pillock. As he approached the damned rise, a scene of evil met his eyes, for to a post about 5'7" was a maiden tied, aged 11. Towering over the shivering child was a beast of a length that reached a mile. This fiery serpent was of such a mass, it gave poor George anxiety gas. But, screwing his courage to the sticking place, he spurred his horse to a galloping pace. He charged up to the pole where the girl was tethered, and hacked at her bonds that were made of leather. As the lass fled, stumbling in her relief, the dragon bellowed in fury and in grief, for lunching monthly, as was their deal, left a long gap between each meal. Then the beast's yellow eyes, glaring with hate, turned on young George, our dear knightly mate. With his todger still throbbing from that earlier whack, he thought, now I have to deal with this much larger attack. The dragon roiled and coiled, it spat and it fired, and George was regretting the fact he'd been hired. The dragon's head rose, ready to strike, and George shifted his weight and steadied his pike. Down came the great maw, wide open and toothy, and up went the spear right into its mouthy. And as the beast writhed and pawed at its hurt, George sidled his horse round the back of the birk. With the great scaly lizard facing away, George raised his spear and started to pray, and charging once more at the great creature's back, he skewered the bastard right up his crack. The wicked beast floundered and squirmed like a trout. It knew it was truly undone by this bout, and as its blood oozed and killed off the grass, its last thoughts were regret for not covering its arse. With the deed duly done, and the beast justly slain, George felt that he really needn't remain. So he rode down the hill on his brave horse, called Jock, and he asked as repayment just some salve for his cock. There you are. An absolute poet laureate in the making. Now, I'm off. They've got a St. George's Day hog roast in the town green, and there's a snot with my name on it. So if you'll excuse me.